We got a ton of rain over the past few days. We've flooded some paddocks. We've got some fence lines down. All of that's something that I can fix here in the next few days. But this is great news for us, because when it rains like this, people hate it. This is exactly what we need to get everything out here growing. So yeah, it's flooded right now. Yeah, we got a couple of miserable days, but that sets the stage for boom. When summer comes and when that sun comes back out, things really start to grow. Today we're going to talk about rotational grazing. Some of these paddocks that are flooded are a part of that, but we've got quite a few, so we'll be just fine. Why we do it, why we believe that it's the healthiest way to not only get food to our table, but also keep our animals healthy, keep our grass healthy, keep our kids healthy. And it's just nature's way, God's way of keeping everything pure. Also today, what we're going to talk about, Roth IRA, term life insurance, and emergency savings accounts. And how, in a lot of ways, that is exactly like this rotational grazing. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help people understand the need to plan for things and understand that when supposedly bad things happen, that's not bad things happening. That's setting the stage for a boom. So stick with us. We'll get into it. This is our current rotational field. We have 32 functional paddocks that house our small herd of goats, chickens, and pigs. Each animal group occupies an individual paddock for about 2 to 3 days, depending on weather and time of year. It's difficult to show the entire setup on video because it's spread out over 11.5 acres. So I'll use an overhead stock image just to explain the basics. The general concept behind rotational grazing can be summed up in a single sentence. Instead of letting animals eat an entire pasture down until it looks like a sad piece of muddy carpet, you move them through smaller paddocks, giving the plant life time to rest, grow, and stay healthy. I think one of the biggest issues with some livestock living quarters is that there's really zero time for the ground to rest and disinfect. That allows parasites, bacteria, and viruses to grow and thrive, which of course leads to sick animals. And since there's no natural vegetation in their living area, the animals generally consume feed that's sourced from corporations and introduce chemicals and medications and all sorts of unknown, unnatural substances. All of that eventually makes its way into the final product, whether that be milk, meat, or eggs. Now, don't get me wrong, there are circumstances that require the use of a smaller area. For example, we use a 30 by 30 fenced area to house our goats during the coldest parts of the winter, so we can monitor them easier, control their climate since it's closer to the house, and make sure any babies and mamas are getting what they need. But that's about a month, maybe a month and a half max out of the entire year. And even then, it's a bare patch of dirt by the time we move them out in the spring. Let's get into how our system works. For this example, we'll assume our rotational season is beginning today. To start things off, the goat herd is moved into paddock 1, which we'll label A. When goats enter a new paddock, they head straight for the taller ends of the grass and weeds because that's where the fresh growth is. For the goats, that's the good stuff. And in 2 or 3 days, everything will be cut down to about shoulder height or lower, and they'll be ready to move to B, giving A time to recover. But that doesn't mean that we just leave it alone. What that means for us is that since the goats have gone through, cut everything down to a decent height, and deposited concentrated piles of grade A manure everywhere, now they can move on to the next paddock and the chickens get their turn to work. So manure is not only the best fertilizer available, it also attracts all kinds of flies, beetles, and other insects that are vital to a healthy ecosystem. And that's music to a chicken's ears. So while scratching through the piles of manure looking for whatever treats are hiding in it, they're effectively shredding the manure and spreading it evenly across the surface of the paddock ground. Chickens also love to eat various plants like grass and weeds, including the seeds they produce. But their reach is of course more limited than that of a goat, so with the goats coming through first, the grass is at just the right height, allowing the chickens to grab plenty of vegetation and rounding out a balanced diet. After another 2 or 3 days, the goats move from B to C, the chickens shift into B behind the goats, and now we introduce the pigs to paddock A. If there's one thing you need to know about pigs, it's this. Pigs are living bulldozers that eat anything. Our kuni pigs actually do quite a bit of grazing on grass and aren't typically as quick as other breeds to start turning over the dirt. This is why it's beneficial to have the goats and chickens come through first. Pigs not only love to eat grass and bugs, but after the first day or day and a half, you start noticing quite a few freshly dug areas. That's because they also love to dig for roots and any grubs hiding in the ground. So after 2 or 3 days of work in the area, they're able to complete a pretty thorough job of cultivating and flipping the topsoil, which thoroughly mixes the manure into the ground and sets the stage for new growth. So upon the completion of that 2 or 3 day period, goats go from C to D, chickens move into C, and pigs follow behind into B. And the eternal game of musical chairs continues. So now we get into the big question of why we do this. And there are 3 main reasons. Number 1, productivity. Grass that gets rest grows back stronger. Over a season, you get more forage per acre, which feeds your animals. Number 2, resilience. Rested grass develops deeper roots, holds water better, and resists drought. In Texas, that's a big deal. And number 3, animal health. Animals get the freshest, most natural food possible. Every bite they take contains more nutrients, and parasites are less likely to accumulate when they don't stay on the same ground constantly. As a matter of fact, the ground generally has about 90 days of rest here, which means an abundance of time and disinfecting sunlight to help things stay fresh. The simple rule is, let them eat the freshest produce straight from the earth, then let the earth rest. The length of the rest depends on growth rates, but for us, it's about a 90-day turnaround. With shorter eating days in the summer and longer in spring or fall, the herd moves when the grass has been eaten down to a certain height, so you move them before they start chewing on roots. It's like harvesting a garden in stages so everything keeps producing. And you don't need any fancy gear to do this. You just need a plan, some temporary fencing or lane systems, and the discipline to move the animals regularly. It's less about hard work and more about smart timing. And the payoff shows up later in better pasture and healthier animals. All right, guys, so we're done with part 1 of this for today. That's our farm lesson and kind of an explanation of what we do with the rotational grazing. Next, I want to get into the term life plus emergency savings plus Roth IRA. And the point of this, and the reason I put these 2 things together and the whole concept behind Financial Farmer, is the mindset. So if you remember, we talked about the paddocks, we talked about moving the animals around, allowing things to grow. Basically, we're putting things in the position that they need to be in and then showing some patience and letting them do their thing. That's how you grow strong pasture, strong animals, and you essentially do it for free. Now, when we get into this financial side of things, this part two of today, I want you to keep that in your mind. Keep it in your head that we're doing things the way that the natural flow allows it to go. We want things to grow naturally. We don't want to have to put a lot of work into it. We want to set it, and maybe there is some effort in the beginning, but ultimately what you're really talking about is discipline. That's the key. So we're going to get into part two. And again, stay in the mindset of going with nature. Stay in the mindset of building for the next generation. And I promise you that if you do that, you will understand that this is absolutely the right thing to do. Stick with us. So part two of this is term life insurance plus emergency savings plus Roth IRA. And the pasture map is going to be replaced with a simple financial paddocks diagram. So 3 labeled boxes: term life, emergency savings, and Roth IRA. This illustration helps explain what I'm going to be talking about. For box 1, term life insurance, that's going to be like the poly wire that I use around the paddock. It's not flashy, it's not expensive, but it gets the job done. Term life provides a big safety net for a defined period of time, usually the years when people depend on your income. Raising kids, paying a mortgage, building a business. You buy coverage that covers the biggest risks, so your family can keep things moving along comfortably if the worst happens. So why term versus others? Well, it's purpose-driven, affordable, and focused. You're not buying an investment, you're buying protection during the years you actually need it. Cheap fence, priceless benefit. Box 2, emergency savings. So I equate my emergency savings to the sheer number of paddocks and animals that I have. If the weather doesn't cooperate and the grass doesn't grow, the animals don't eat, and the freezer empties out pretty dang quick. This money is liquid and accessible. 3 to 6 months of expenses or more, depending on your situation. It's for the unexpected job loss, the unexpected medical bill, the unexpected equipment breakdown. You invest this in extremely conservative, short-term securities, meaning that you store it where it's ready and safe. And just as a bonus, it continues to grow as it sits patiently waiting to bail you out should you need it. It's not very sexy, but it keeps you from selling investments at the worst time or letting a small emergency turn into a financial crisis. Now on to box 3, Roth IRA. Now the Roth IRA is the all-important growth, long-term, nutrient-rich pasture. You put after-tax dollars in, it grows tax-free, and withdrawals in retirement are also usually tax-free. For younger farmers and savers, the Roth is especially powerful because decades of tax-free compounding is like letting pasture rest and become more productive year after year. Compare that to rotating animals. You're intentionally leaving money in a space where it can regrow without being grazed or taxed. Over time, it compounds, and because you paid up front, your future harvest isn't taxed at withdrawal. So let's try bringing this all together. Here's how we run the system. First, make sure the extremely affordable yet impressively effective fencing is in place with term life sized to the appropriate risk. Second, build your backup paddocks and stock that freezer until you feel comfortable with the amount of savings on hand. Third, invest the rest into the Roth IRA and other long-term accounts as needed. If you treat these as distinct zones with clear roles, you avoid bad trade-offs like trading long-term growth for short-term needs or having no protection when it matters. The shared idea that I see here between farming and finances is simple: discipline and structure. Rotational grazing isn't about micromanaging every blade of grass. It's about understanding the rules that govern time investment and growth. So guys, hopefully you see the concept that I'm trying to accomplish here. Farming, homesteading, growing your own animals, growing your own food is no different than growing your own finances. Taking charge of your generational wealth is no different than taking charge of your generational health. So hopefully the concepts that I'm trying to get across are coming across, and hopefully also it's easy to understand. I'm not trying to make this super complicated, because it's not super complicated. And sometimes we think things have to be complicated because, well, they're so important. But ultimately, just like we work with this land, if you do it the way it wasn't meant to be done, the way the system was set up for it to be done, it's easy. God's plan for the land, if you follow that, it's easy. Things fall right into place. I don't know if it's God's plan for money or not, but I can tell you that there is a plan and there is a gameplay. If you follow that plan, you follow that gameplay, it's simple. You just got to put the dots together. That's it. Paint by numbers. That's what we're trying to teach people here. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please comment, please subscribe, and please share. We're trying to get this information out to as many people as possible. You don't have to call me for any advice. You don't have to sign up for any services with me. Just get the information to as many people as possible so that they're not dependent on someone else giving them advice that's hurting them in the long run. Thanks, guys.